Thank you for the reply, sir. The next question has been submitted by Mr. Kenyon via letter. I call on Mr. Kenyon to ask this question. Okay, I'll ask the question. At a recent Oldham Council meeting, Sean Fielding, the leader of Oldham Council, stated that YouTube footage was only edited when the Mayor of Oldham adjourned the meeting. On the very same meeting, however, the camera was switched off and the sound was edited. Because I had questioned the integrity and honesty of Oldham Council and its councillors. Are Oldham Council in breach of their code of practice for hiding and or editing the truth? Transparency and openness should be fundamental principles of everything that local governments and local government bodies do. I call on Councillor Fielding to respond. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to try and avoid simply reading out a response to a question verbatim, but I think this is something that needs absolute clarification, and I want to be certain that I get absolutely correct. So if you'll forgive me on this occasion, I'm going to read this. Mr. Kenyon's question relates to the meeting of full council on September the 12th. What happened that evening was that, in accordance with the rules of Open Council, he had pre-submitted a written question about subject access reports. In accordance with the rules, he was invited to the microphone to read the question as submitted, which he did, and I then gave him an answer. Immediately after that, and unfortunately not for the first time, Mr. Kenyon broke the rules of Open Council by attempting to ask follow-up questions and shout out points that he had not submitted as questions. Despite the Mayor's objections and instructions in his capacity as chair of the meeting, asking him to come to order, Mr. Kenyon persisted in shouting from the dais, including allegations about a council member, which can all be clearly heard on the video. The web stream is run by a third party for us. Mr. Kenyon says that the sound was edited. I can confirm that it was not. It appears that by appealing across the back of the stage to Mr. Kenyon with his microphone turned off, the words of the Mayor subsequently become very quiet on the clip, though still audible. However, if you play this clip through a bigger speaker, such as a TV set, you can clearly hear what happens. Only the Mayor speaks at the time where the audio is quieter, which lasts about 20 seconds, and he simply states that there is a time limit for questions and that all questioners, in accordance with the rules, should stick to the text of the question they originally submitted, and that he needs to move on with the next public question. So there was no editing of the audio, otherwise the video would have been silent. Nor was the camera switched off as implied in the question. At that point in time, the camera operator simply moved to look towards the mace at the front of the stage. The picture coverage is clearly still live, as councillors' heads are moving and looking towards where Mr. Kenyon was stood and remonstrating from. The camera operator was not instructed to do this, but probably did so because they felt that an adjournment of the meeting might be imminent, something that has happened in the past. In short, there's no cover-up, no video or audio editing, and no conspiracy. If the questioner sticks to the fair spirit of the rules of Open Council, asking the question that was submitted, then we would not have problems like this. Open Council is a transparent and democratic forum, and that is based on respect, something I would remind Mr. Kenyon of again tonight. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the reply. The next question is submitted by Councillor Bates by email. Yeah, Mr. Bates. Mr. Bates, could you come to?
First of all, I wanted to avoid this tonight, but it carries on from the last district executive where I supported a Labour councillor, Gerald Brock, who was a brilliant local councillor. And this has been going on for 12 months now, and I used to call them Indians, not the chiefs. The Indians in Failsworth are playing havoc and playing hell at the district executives. And I want to clear it up.
Mr. Bates, could I just remind you, could you please stick to the question as printed, because we are limited on time.
Sorry about that, Mr.
Mr. Make it fair for everybody, and we have got a major news announcement at 9 o'clock today. So
sorry about that, Mr. Mayor, but it is openness and transparency. Mr. Mayor, members of the public in Failsworth are very concerned and have continually requested a detailed, itemised public spend, invoices, receipts. That's what I'm on about, and you all should know about that when you've got public money. Accountability. On the following, number one, Councillor Legary £750 entertainment at Mayor's Irish Night. The next one was Failsworth Festive Feast on Wednesday, December the 13th, the first Labour Christmas party we ever had. And I mentioned a councillor then, Councillor Canny, and Councillor Brock, who was gone, resigned, she was involved. Furthermore, in order to avoid this public question tonight, councillors, I wrote to Councillor Barbara Brownridge regarding this detailed itemised spend request of the public money as a cabinet member for cooperatives and neighbour hubs at the time. She signed everything off, so obviously it all must have been there because she signed it off. That's her job. Possibly seen by her, but received no response. By the way, she's been on to me tonight about the response, and I don't accept it, but that's another matter. Because of the continued lack of detailed information regarding the itemised public spend, receipts, invoices, etc., public money, I wrote to the Borough Solicitor about the concerns by the public of Failsworth, and I have been promised an internal review. Thank you, Mr. Entwistle, for that. As leader of the council, in the interest of transparency and openness, will you publicly confirm this, please, that we will have an internal review? Councillor Fielding. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bates, for the question. Could I call on Councillor Fielding to reply, please? Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'm probably going to do something that's a little bit unorthodox in response to this question. So we've got the TVs on tonight and we can see ourselves, and it's a little bit off-putting. If only we had Apple TV, because I could stream what I'm about to do on my phone directly to that television. So oldham.gov.uk, about the council, meetings.
What's this got to do with the question?
Agendas. It's about openness and transparency, Mr. Bates.
Openness and transparency.
Agendas and minutes. Failsworth and Hollingwood District Executive. Browse meetings and agendas for this committee. 15th of March 2018. Budget report, there we go. Okay, so in the budget report, which is a publicly available document, which I've just accessed in the space of fewer than 20 seconds, it has details of how the itemised spend of how councillors in Failsworth and Hollingwood spent their money. So under Failsworth West members, it is correct, it is recorded on public record, which can be accessed at any time, 24 hours a day, prior to this meeting, in order to avoid this question, as Mr. Bates said he would have liked to have done, that Councillor Elaine Gary did donate £750 towards the Mayor's Irish Night. It also says that Councillor Warren Bates donated £500 for equipment and decorations towards the Failsworth Festive Feast, which took place in December. So I've accessed that information that Mr. Bates has requested, but a little bit more context. The 15th of March budget report states that £750 was allocated to entertainment for the Lord Mayor's Appeal Irish Night. This was actually incorrect. Only £670 was donated to the appeal. The Irish Night held on Friday the 16th of March 2018 raised in total £875 for the Mayor's charities, which the Mayor chose and were all very worthy causes in the last municipal year. Failsworth Festive Feast was a concept devised by a former councillor for vulnerable people within our community to celebrate Christmas. This was a ticketed event bought in advance. Funding was secured by the former councillor, Miss Brock, from former councillor for Failsworth West, Mr. Bates, as that public document that I accessed in fewer than 20 seconds reflects. Miss Brock advised Miss Brock advised the district team what materials she required to make the event a success, and using the funding secured from Mr. Bates, goods were purchased for that event. Former councillor Warren Bates was fully briefed on how his funding was used at the time of him being a councillor, and he was, and I believe still remains, a frequent visitor to the district office. He also had several conversations with Miss Brock herself and attended the event, so saw what the money was spent on when he saw how that room was decorated and what was provided at that party. At no point has former councillor Warren Bates contacted the district team since funding was secured back in November 2017 asking for further details, and it's very bizarre that he should raise a question on such a minor local issue at this meeting of all councillors. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Sir. Councillor, Mr. Bates, could you just... Mr. Bates, Mr. Bates, thank you very much, sir. Take a seat. Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Bates, could you take a seat, please? Thank you.
Public money.
Right, we'll move on to the next question. That's the end of public question time. We're running out of time, so then we have to move on to the next question. I'm sorry, sir, but we... Right, we'll move on to the next item in agenda. The received council members from councillors on ward district matters. So the next question has been submitted by Councillor Harrison. Mr. Kenyon, could you please take a seat? Mr. Brown, could you please take a seat? Because the thing, if you listen to me for just 2 seconds, every person has been allocated time slots. So the question public time has ceased. If you have further questions, write an email to me and I'll see what I can do, okay? Please take a seat. Okay. I've done more than my part. I've done more than my part share of meeting you halfway. We will move on to the next section. Should we just check? What should we do?
Councillor Hazel Gloucester more or less threatened, evicted me from a meeting.
Right, what we'll do is we'll just continue with the meeting. We'll just continue with the meeting. The question has been received from Cabinet members from Councillor on the wards and district matters. Council has agreed to consider the questions on a politically balanced basis. I call on Councillor Harrison to ask the questions submitted.
Sorry?
Mr. Brown. Mr. Brown, please, sir, last chance. Could you please sit down, sir? Otherwise, we will have to...
Have I got the authority? Who is responsible to the electorate?
Please, sir. The allocated time... Could we escort this gentleman out of the premises, please?
Is the councillor responsible to the electorate? Yes. 100%. And what you've done is, and the government is looking at it...
The allocated time for those questions has ceased.
I am doing exactly what a government minister says. I am holding you to the highest possible standards. I wanted help. I wanted help. And it's no good, leader of the opposition, when we had a meeting, you say it, I'm not the dad. Councillor Sykes, who are you leading off?
Right, I'm adjourning this meeting until our friend's gone.